we're reflecting on South African human rights and governance track record 30 years into democracy. And the question we want to look at is how mature is South Africa in terms of going into elections. And we know we see it right across many other parts around the entire world in terms of elections that are held. We know what has happened actually even in a country like Pakistan with stolen elections. And when we see levels of intolerance in many countries around the world when it comes to building up to the elections. And this is what we're talking to a political analyst and struggle veteran, Pule Monama, about in the build up to the elections, and also taking a look at another international story this afternoon. What prompted Pakistan to conduct airstrikes in Afghanistan? All of that still to come on the show. But right now we're going across to struggle veteran and political analyst, Pule Monama. Mr. Monama, good afternoon to you, sir, and welcome to the show. Mr. Monama, are you with us?
Anaya Dwadi, and good afternoon also to the viewers and listeners.
Yes, we're obviously into some very interesting times in the build-up to the elections as well, and we're going to try and provide as much election coverage as we can, but also to reflect on South Africa, looking at our human rights, looking at our track record 30 years into the democracy and building up to the elections. What are your thoughts? Because obviously you are a struggle veteran, so you've seen a lot, you've done a lot, you've heard a lot. You've experienced a lot, Mr. Monama.
Right. One cannot speak about human rights in the South African context, which human rights do not include the improvement of the lives of the ordinary people from the era of apartheid. Human rights cannot coexist with abject poverty. It cannot coexist with the destroyed health system. It cannot coexist with the ever rising unemployment levels. Human rights cannot coexist with corruption. Human rights should mean that, in fact, the ordinary person has moved 2-3 steps above from where he was during apartheid. We are not seeing that. In fact, what we are seeing is a reversal of all of that.
Well, it is. In fact, what you are saying, obviously 30 years down the line, the question is, are we better off? Are we worse off? And we know even with the State of the Nation address, there was a lot of focus by President Cyril Ramaphosa in the last 30 years in terms of what the ANC has achieved, what the government has achieved. But going now into 2024, into a very, very crucial election, is there a lot that we can actually talk about?
Not at all, because you see, when we talk about 30 years of governance, we should be talking about milestones achieved. If you listen to the governing party, all they are telling us is that we could not do this because we had these challenges. There is nothing concrete that this government can talk about. All they are asking us is to say, give us another chance. Now, if you were in the township and you meet people who are ill, they would rather prefer to die at home than go to a hospital. And they say going to hospital is actually expediting their death. If you look around and you look at security, our security system, public security, is so low that, in fact, what this government has produced is actually an incentive for private security, for those, of course, who can afford it. If we were to look around, the thriving business today is that of private schools, when in fact the government was supposed to improve from what apartheid has left us with. If you look around, you find the success of private hospitals and medical care, some things that should not even exist given what we expected from a democratic government.
Yes. Now, I think, for someone like yourself, and as I mentioned, a veteran, and looking at, the last 30 years, but now looking ahead, because many are saying that the next election is going to be the most crucial. It's going to be the first time where the ANC majority will be reduced as well, where they may not even get to 50%. And we're heading for a coalition government. And just your thoughts on how this political landscape is starting to shape or look like.
I think the first question we need to ask ourselves is what creates this reduction of power within the ANC? It has created it itself. And it had created it because instead of concentrating on building a unitary state, they were busy stealing from the people. Now, let's go back to when the ANC started to hemorrhage. It started to hemorrhage when they started firing the Holomisas, the Julius Malemas, now Zuma. And all of that is not because people were fired because they were not delivering. They were fighting over the space, fighting over the key to the public safe. Now, if you look at Jacob Zuma was self-created, created by the ANC. You look at Ace Mahachula, created by the ANC, all because of ill discipline within the ANC and also the inconsistency of applying the rules. Now, if you look at how, in fact, the ANC has carried out discipline among its members, it was very, very selective. And that is what creates this problem. 30 years down the line, what we'd expect is that it's the ANC that tells you that we have successfully cleaned up the hospitals. Anybody can go there and find a bed. Anybody can go there and find medicine. Find a doctor. And yet, we have over 1,000 doctors who are unemployed, but we also have the community that does not have medical care. Now, how do you call that a celebration? Now, when you go to the elections, that is what the ANC has got to answer. And I'm afraid they are not going to have answers to that problem because now the ordinary people themselves are now beginning to ask those questions. It is not us who are asking those questions. It is now the ordinary person who says to us that I cannot afford a private school. If I could, I would do that because the local public schools are not offering my children what they ought to get. And I can go further. We talk about unemployed graduates. The question is, do we actually have unemployed graduates or do we have unemployable graduates? That's the question we need to ask. Now, the elections are going to be very, very crucial in the sense that the ANC is hemorrhaging first and foremost. It's going to be reduced by itself. Forget about the proliferation of various political parties, but the ANC itself is going to reduce its own majority because all they're fighting for is not how they did or did not serve the public. They're fighting because of who is closer to the public safe. And that is where the major crunch comes when it comes to the ANC itself as a ruling party. Now, we've got the proliferation of many organizations. Yes, we do. What caused the two? It is because we have a constitution also that allows people to just go there willy-nilly and say we are representing people and they get so many signatures and they've got a seat in parliament. And that seat gives them a guarantee to be there for 5 years, to do absolutely nothing. And all they can do is that we are in a minority, we can't do anything. The question is, if all of them have the same problem, why can't they actually work together? It is because also at that level, it is no longer about the people, it's about the self. That if I am a president of this organization, I can get there. So all of them would just want to be a president of one organization so that they can be there. in Parliament.
Well, certainly. Mr. Monama, I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to go for a quick air break. We'll be back with you in a minute.
Thank you.
Emergivec Sharia, South Africa's first and only fully Sharia compliant family medical, the Kaful Al Wellness product, which is all listeners, Ramadan Kareem. Download the Emergivec app today and get free
Discover
immediate
the
access.
Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042 203 1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Abu Huraira narrated that he heard the Prophet Muhammad, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, say, in Black Seed there is the healing for every disease except death. This Ramadan, experience the health benefits of this ancient blessed seed by using the Tib Black Seed range. Black Seed assists the body to boost immunity, regulate blood sugar levels, reduce inflammation, and act as a potent antioxidant. Experience a holistic approach to health by introducing the Tib Black Seed range into your Ramadan routine. Available in capsules, pure cold-pressed oil, and a vapor rub. Trust Tib Health Sciences for quality black seed products. For more information, visit blackseed.co.za. Available at leading pharmacies.
The Muslim Ummah asked, and by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Emergivac Sharia has delivered. Muslim families in South Africa can now enjoy up to 575,000 Rand emergency medical cover at a private hospital for all in-hospital expenses arising from an accident or illness. Plus, you receive 24-hour access to private ambulance evacuation, 24-hour armed response services, roadside, home, and even appliance assistance services. Simply download the Emergivac app and register online or SMS Sharia to 40777. Emergivac Sharia, for when serious emergencies require seriously fast response.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Yes, and that last advert, Emergivec Sharia, South Africa's first and only fully Sharia compliant family medical, takaful and wellness product. Wishing all the listeners Ramadan Kareem. Download the Emergivec app today and get free immediate access to Emergivec Sharia collection of du'as, hadith, Quran, and much, much more. And as we continue with our broadcast this afternoon, and taking a look at South Africa, our democracy, and also heading into the elections in terms of where are we as a country. Have we matured as a democracy? And this is a question that I'd like to actually raise with my guest, Mr. Pule Monama, this, in terms of the maturity levels of this country into a democracy. We know elections are coming up. There are going to be certain areas, hotbeds that we'd like to call them as well. And we see a number of players already entering into or re-entering into the political landscape. Mr. Monama, welcome back and thank you again for holding on. I think, there we go.
Right.
Okay, Mr. Monama. Yes, I wanted to talk about political maturity. And how have we as a country, have we matured politically? And the reason why I'm raising this question is we know that elections are no easy times for political parties. Certain areas, KwaZulu-Natal, we've seen now the re-entry of politics of none other than Jacob Zuma back into the political landscape. On the other side, we spoke about Esma Khashule, and all of this playing out and just looking at where we are and in the build-up to the elections, is the electorate mature enough to make the right decisions?
I think we need to redefine what mature electorate is. We need to redefine what a mature democracy is. And I'll go back to where I started. Maturity can only happen if those issues that took us into the struggle are fulfilled. You don't call a protest for lack of water a matured democracy. You don't call a protest for lack of electricity a matured democracy. A matured democracy is where people begin themselves to understand and accept that you have actually done something for them. Now, again, poverty and maturity cannot coexist. You cannot get people matured in politics when you keep on oppressing them. They cannot be. Because maturity means that people are at a level where they are, relatively satisfied with what they get, right? That becomes maturity. But when people are forever angry, where does maturity fit in there? It cannot be. Because that maturity must be developed through the programs that actually are put in the communities, and the communities are begin to feel the worth of their vote. They are not feeling that at the moment.
Yes, Mr. Monama, if you were President Cyril Ramaphosa, if you were in the top echelons of the ANC right now, what would you be thinking about? What would you be saying, considering what we have been discussing in the last 20-odd minutes, and also what we see around us, evolving in the country, and how this democracy has actually degenerated, for want of a better term?
Well, you ask, what would I do if I was President Cyril Ramaphosa? I don't wish to be in his boots. In fact, the ruling party has run out of options. And that is not a situation that I envy. I would have loved to be Cyril Ramaphosa, who says, we have schools, we've got graduates, we've got industries in which our graduates can begin to be involved. I would be happy to be Ramaphosa if I am able to say our youngsters are busy innovating, creating, and doing all sorts of things. Let me tell you, where I work, next door to me, it is a rehabilitation center. This rehabilitation center has got more than 1,000 people, youngsters, graduates, who actually turned to drugs as a consequence of not getting a job, as a consequence of having these certificates which are useless, as a consequence of having been told that we will give you $350 a month. And that cannot be something to celebrate. We would want to have a situation where we actually have less burden on the tax base and more into the tax base, because more people are employed, because more people are working, more people are employing. Therefore, I wouldn't like to be in this position. But put differently, I would have done the things that I'm talking about 30 years ago. Today, we would be bragging about a democracy that's maturing.
Well, let's see what happens. And very quickly, your comment on when we talk about maturing democracy, your thoughts on, are we mature enough to govern on a national level through a coalition government? And we've seen what has happened at local government level. Just your quick thoughts on this, on coalition governments at the national level.
You see, let's talk about local government first. A local government within which you have a coalition of society that is not politically mature, in inverted commas. In fact, where ordinary citizens have no say in the political system. A situation where a government, a party in government, in the local government, that has 0.003% gets put into a powerful position so that it acts as a shield for those who want to trade among themselves in terms of our budgets and our tenders. That becomes a problem. Generally, a coalition government sounds very good and it can work, but in this country, we are not ready for that yet, unless the community itself can begin to have a say. And I'll give you one example. We need a constitution that actually is bottom-up, where leaders don't come from political parties, where leaders come from the communities themselves. That's at the local level. We need a constitution that allows communities to recall the people they have actually elected when they don't do the job. What we see right now is that all the people are faced with is frustration after they voted. When garbage is not collected, when electricity is not there is no water in the taps, there is just absolutely nothing. They are helpless and hopeless. They do not know what to do. And what do? They go out and trash the streets. They go out and destroy their own property, by the way, because that is a frustration that comes with this kind of political system we have. Now, the same would go with a national coalition. I don't have any faith in it working, at least at this stage.
Well, let's see what happens. And I'm sure, Mr. Monama, you and I will be touching base from time to time. I must say it's very, very interesting talking to you, to share, in your expertise, in your experience as well. And we can see that the wealth of experience you actually bring in your analysis, and also, being a veteran of the struggle. Actually, there's just so much that we can actually take from you, and we can learn from you. And we do appreciate you taking time out, talking to us right here on Salam Media this afternoon. Please take care, sir.
Thank you very much.
Pule Monama joining us this afternoon. And with that, we're going for a break. And we are going to now ask the question, what has driven Pakistan in attacking Afghanistan? And that's just before we link up with Maulana Yunus Kawanga.